Good morning, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Today we will have Sister Sylvia Bay with us, giving a talk on Dhamma application in the daily life. Let me read her bio for those who don't know who Sis Sylvia Bay is. She has dedicated herself to the study and practice of the Buddha's teachings since 1992. She holds a BA in Buddhist Studies from the Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka and was a lecturer with her alma mater. She also has a Master's in International Public Policy from Johns Hopkins School of Advanced Studies. Since 2001, Sis Sylvia has been a regular speaker on Buddhist doctrines and their practical applications at local and regional Buddhist organizations. In 2013, she published her first book, Between the Lines, an analytical appreciation of the Buddha's life. She is now working on another book titled Towards the Light, the Buddha's Guide to a Heavenly Rebirth. Today our format will be slightly different. We will start with chanting in English and followed by quiet time, a short one. Then Sister Sylvia will be giving her talk, followed by Q&A. Sister Sylvia, maybe.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to do, may I invite all of you to come together, put your hands together, to offer salutation to the Triple Gems. We're going to do it in English for the benefit of those who are not familiar with Pali. I think it's necessary for us to know exactly what we are paying homage to and what we are saying as we are paying homage. Okay? So, shall we begin? Let us pay respects to the Triple Gem, the Lord, the perfectly enlightened and blessed one. I render homage to the Buddha, the teaching, so completely explained by him. I bow to the Dhamma, the Blessed One's disciple who have practiced well. I bow to the Sangha. Preliminary homage to the Buddha. Let us pay homage to the Buddha. Homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the perfectly enlightened one. Homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the perfectly enlightened one. Homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the perfectly enlightened one. Going for refuge. We chant the verses for taking the 3 refuges. To the Buddha, I go for refuge. To the Dhamma, I go for refuge. To the Sangha, I go for refuge. For the second time, to the Buddha, I go for refuge. For the second time, to the Dhamma, I go for refuge. For the second time, to the Sangha, I go for refuge. For the third time, to the Buddha, I go for refuge. For the third time, to the Dhamma, I go for refuge. For the third time, to the Sangha, I go for refuge. Now we chant these verses to observe the 5 precepts. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living beings. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given. I undertake the precept to refrain from sexual misconduct. I undertake the precept to refrain from false speech. I undertake the precept to refrain from consuming alcohol and intoxicating drinks and drugs which lead to heedlessness. Recollection of the Buddha. Let us recollect the sublime qualities of the Buddha. Such, indeed, is the Blessed One, worthy, perfectly awake, endowed with knowledge and virtue, gone beyond, knower of the worlds, a guide incomparable for the training of individuals, teacher of gods and men, enlightened and exalted. Let us recollect the sublime qualities of the Dhamma. Well expounded is the Dhamma by the Blessed One, to be self-realized, bearing immediate fruit, timeless, inviting investigation, leading onward, to be realized by the wise, each for himself. Let us recollect the sublime qualities of the Sangha, the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced directly, the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced insightfully, the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced with integrity. That is, the 4 pairs, the 8 kinds of noble beings. These are the Blessed One's disciples. Such ones are worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of respect. They are an incomparable field of merits to the world. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I thought we should spend a few minutes calming the mind down and having a sense of quiet and joy before we start the Dhamma Talk. So I would like to invite everyone to sit comfortably and bring the mind, bring your attention to the present, to just before you. If you like, you can close your eyes. If not, you can just keep it on, that's fine. We're just going to do about 3 minutes, 4 minutes of calming down the mind, quietening down the mind. Okay? So, close your eyes. Focus your attention before your face. You can bring it, if you're familiar with it, you can bring it to the nose. Just calm the mind down, okay? Take a deep breath. Breathe in, breathe out. Take another deep breath. Breathe in deep as you can go. And breathe out. Now I want you to reflect on your blessings. Let your mind go into the recollection of the Buddha's qualities, that we have a great teacher who left behind a beautiful Dhamma. Just reflect in your mind. Think about, we have a great teacher who left behind a beautiful Dhamma which is relevant. The teachings are still relevant after 2,500 years. As you reflect so, you will feel a sense of joy. You may feel a sense of joy arising within you. The joy of gratitude, the joy of knowing that you have this opportunity as a human with faculties intact, with intelligence and wisdom to appreciate the Dhamma. Feel the joy that arises, that comes with this reflection. As that joy arises, and for some of you the joy may surge, your mind will go peaceful, quiet. The mind goes peaceful and quiet. In that moment, as the mind is peaceful and quiet, be aware of this quiet and peaceful mind. As you reflect on that, you may become aware of the breathing. Accept the breathing. It is natural. It's a part of process, life's process. It's breathing that goes on, that sustains life, that keeps the mind present. Use the breathing to anchor the mind, keep it present. Make your peace with the breath. Enjoy it. We'll just do this for a minute to help calm the mind down. So reflect on the qualities of the Buddha. Reflect on the blessings of being able to hear the Dhamma. Know for yourself that as a human, you have a great opportunity to practice in accordance with the teachings. This teaching enables you to experience peace of mind and a sense of liberation. In whatever degree that you understand, that much joy and peace you will enjoy, you will experience. I think that's enough. We can all slowly make our way out of meditation. If you are in meditation, slowly be awakened to the sensory stimulation around you. Open your eyes, get alert, because I promised you, today will be a bit of a heavy session. I think we can go for more than 1 hour, right? We can just go for more than 1 hour, okay? Because I might need more than just an hour to share all the materials on 2 boards. Okay. Now, as you can see, I have put a lot of writing on 2 boards. So we're going to cover the materials written on 2 boards. The topic today is Dhamma application in daily life. Before we get to the Dhamma application, I think it's necessary for us to revisit the way that our mind works. Our mind does not work along the Dhamma way, but that's okay. It is also necessary as a practitioner to recognize for yourself how your mind doesn't operate along the Dhamma way. The Adhamma way, it's the conventional mind. Adhamma, not Dhamma way, okay? And in Buddha's teaching, he covered both. He covered both explaining how our mind works regularly, as well as what you must do to change the habits so that your mind no longer works in the Adhamma way. It leans towards the Dhamma. As the Buddha would put it, your mind starts to drift towards Dhamma, leans towards Dhamma. So what we want is to change from how we do things regularly, conventionally, to how we should do things so that we experience cessation of dukkha. Okay? So let's start with how our mind works typically. Point 1, I put here the word moha. Sorry, I forgot to put the English word. Delusion. The regular, the conventional, the person, the worldling can't help but perceive the world in a moha way, in a delusional way. Now, it doesn't mean that your sense of reality, conventional reality, is wrong. It doesn't mean that. Your sense of reality is as wrong as everyone else. Okay? Why? Because the regular person has one critical fixation. And it's a fixation with the notion of pleasure or pleasant. However you call it, it leans towards pleasant. We are very much caught up in our feelings. Any regular person typically wants pleasure. They will be averse to pain. That is normal, nothing wrong with that. But this fixation with pleasure and aversion to pain actually invades in all aspects of our life. We may not realize this, but it's in all aspects of our life. From how we think, to what we look for when we are bored, what do we do, to the big questions of life. Who do we marry? Who do we want to spend time with? Where do we go? What do we do in our job? You just think about how our life is so caught up with search. Ours is what you would call the conventional search. Our regular life is full of searches. Esana. As the Buddhists would have it, Ariyapariyesanā. That's the Buddha's, the noble search. But our search, our hunt in daily life is all about maximizing pleasure and minimizing minimizing pain. That is the singular fixation of all living beings. Now, it can be the big pain, the big huge pleasure, the aesthetic ones, or it can be just mild one. Think about it. You go into a hawker center looking for the food that you want. What do you think about? The food you enjoy. What is this thing about enjoying that food? It's pleasure. Eating something gives us that trivial delight. And that's what we are looking for an entire day. So, the regular person, the conventional person, has a fixation with sukha, pleasure. And because, the question is, why this fixation? And that is because, in our mind, pleasure is lasting. Now, I know the word nature actually means permanent. But even when we are completely deluded, we know life is not permanent. We know life is impermanent. But that doesn't change the fact that you will still think, or we will still think, that pleasure is worth it because pleasure is lasting. It doesn't just go off like that. It continues. Why? Because we'll think about it, and as soon as we think about it, we will revisit a pleasure. And if you keep revisiting in your mind, and then you go and engage externally, then there is this delusion that pleasure can be infinite and can be permanent. It's just a delusion. Now, the other problem is this thing about the self. I know I'm going into some kind of a landmine here because the conventional person, the typical person, is fixated about self. There's so many English words talking about self. The question is, why like that? And it's because we know, instinctively we know, people live, people die. We know that. And we know that this is instinctive. Instinctively, we know that it's nothing substantial. Instinctively. But we don't want it to be like that. We want it to be not like that, not insubstantial, not impermanent. We want it to be permanent. We want pleasure to have meaning. The only way pleasure has meaning is it's permanent. It's lasting. And then you need something. Your mind will create this idea that there has to be something that links all the pleasurable moments. So you will want to engage in activities that affirm, that continues to affirm that you are real, that there is something beyond the conditional arising of aggregates. Now I'm going to use big words now. Aggregates, conditional arising. Actually, if I were to put it into simple English, it's just like this. Your experiences of the world is no more than 5 sets of aggregates. Your experiences. There are others which you don't know about, okay? But these 5, you are very aware. You're very aware of your form. You're very aware of feelings. You're very aware when you perceive, when you see things and you understand. In Pali, it's called sanya, but you think about it, it's like you see and there is a recognition. In that recognition, you know the world. And the next one, which is sometimes confused with recognition, is thought construction. You recognize, you know, you think. Thoughts. And this would be your experiences. Your conscious experiences. These 5 are constantly changing. When we talk about self, we are saying in these 5 activities, or these 5 aggregates, these 5 sets of aggregates, in all of them, they come together as one, and you call that a self. There's something that lives outside of these 5 aggregates. That's the problem. So in all the activities, the aggregates are no more than mental activities with the physical form, with a form. But we'll look at these activities as real, something beyond just conditional arising of these activities. Okay? So you think about it, pleasure means everything, means the world to us. The underlying assumption there is pleasure is lasting, when in effect, pleasure is transient and fleeting. But no, in our mind, we want and we perceive that pleasure is lasting. Okay? And something other than this obviously decaying self, this decaying body, there's something else outside of this obviously decaying and will eventually die form and mind. Something beyond this exists. Think about how hard we spend our time trying to prove to ourselves the importance of the self. And why do we do that? If you sit around doing nothing, being very quiet, there is no sense of self. But it's when you start thinking, the self arises. And the more you think, the more the self appears. But that we will continue in the next board. The final thing that I want to talk about is this notion of karma. I'm very careful here because there's a lot of assumptions about what karma means. I'm very specific. I'm talking about the karma that the Buddha taught. And in this particular one, we're talking about karma as choices that the mind makes. Conscious choices that you make having implications for the condition of your mind. Conscious choices, okay? So the choices that you make, whether out of pure intention or negative, unwholesome intentions, they will leave behind a mark, a stain in the mind. Those stains will then condition the way that you are. So every decisions, every conscious decisions lays an imprint on the mind. Now, for many people, when they hear the word karma, they either don't understand what it is, or they don't believe that it exists. Whether it's ignorant or disbelief, the consequence is you don't care. I don't know, I don't care. I don't believe, I don't care. So, as if you do not have an understanding of karma, and you choose, and because you don't understand, you may conclude that it is not important. And the result of that is then you will lead your life according to this. I call it untamed and no restraint. They are not the same. They are not the same. Being untamed and no restraint, they're not the same. But they usually come together. Okay? So, because you don't believe in karma, you will say, I will do as my pleasure dictates. My sense of entitlement, what makes me feel good. I will just do exactly as I want. Your restraint, if any, is when there is a feedback. So if someone tells you what you are saying is causing me pain, that's a feedback, it's an external feedback, then you stop. Or you may feel bad when you do something because it hurts and you can see for yourself that it hurts people. So that is another feedback. The guy is not telling you, but you can see that it hurts people. Your conscience prick, you stop. So your restraint is externally driven to some extent. it is not internally driven. If there is no cost to you pursuing a particular delight and pleasure, you just do it. It is normal. You just chase after. If you're angry, you will lash out. It is just the way that the regular person will behave. So let me recap. Because of the fixation with pleasure, and the belief that there is no such thing as karma, or I know there is karma, I don't know how it works, I don't really care. So either or both. Fixation and pleasure, I don't believe there's karma, I don't know there's karma, I don't care there's karma. The result is, I will do as I want. And when I do as I want, it means I will undertake action, I will say things that if it hurts others, well, too bad. Sometimes that happens. If you are a decent person, you are a good person, you listen to the feedback and you pull back. Possible. And that's the right thing to do, you pull back. But you're still acting with little restraint. So I should actually change this to no or little restraint, okay? We are driven by craving, holding, grasping. Basically, in anything that you do, there is this sense of attachment to the pleasure, and you want it repeated. So just remember, you enjoy the pleasure, you enjoy whatever gives you delight, and you want to keep repeating it. They're not the same. One is, I want it. The two is, let's do something to get it. And then, after all is done, you remember. And your memory plays a lot of trick on you. You remember the delight. You think about repeating, and it starts all over again. So, craving is wanting it. Grasping is holding it. This is a major source of dukkha, suffering, pain. Okay? No restraint, untamed, means you do not hold in check the craving and the grasping and the attachment that comes in. We are typically, because of the attachment, you will be typically driven by these two. Note, moha underpins everything. But this guy is what will lead to this problem, which then causes your greed and your anger, your ill will to get out of control. You can check, you can choose to check, you can choose to restrain. For some people, depending on the intensity of that craving and anger, they might lose control. For some people with minimal control, it doesn't matter what's the degree, they will just hit out. Okay? It all depends on the individual. And finally, okay, nivaranas, hindrances. You will notice that we have a lot more complex negative sensations or experiences, unwholesome experiences, beyond the key anger and ill will. There are actually many more. But all the many types of negative experiences, they all will sit on these. They have to sit on it. So if you think about it, restlessness, worry, doubt, skeptical doubt, lethargy, laziness, what do they sit on? They sit on greed. They sit on greed. And to some extent, it is ill will. Let me explain. Let's take, for example, worry. You will not worry unless you care for something. The more you care, the more you worry, right? Why do you care for something? Why do you care for that person? Because you have love for that person. What is love? Love is attachment to the person. That attachment causes you to worry. It sits on that. Restlessness. Why do people get restless? Because the mind is seeking stimulation, enjoyment, pleasure. No one gets restless when they are enjoying. You get restless only when the enjoyment part is over. Either you hanker for more, or you're seeking new and fresh stimulation. We don't know. It depends on you. But your enjoyment, the fact that your enjoyment is over, then now you are seeking to repeat or to have even greater stimulation. That's when the restlessness will start. So no matter how you think of it, right, all unwholesome mental states must sit on greed. And when there is greed, there will follow ill will. It's normal. Restlessness, where is the ill will? The ill will is to the lack of stimulation. I'm not stimulated, I'm bored. I don't like bored. That's the ill will. Okay? So, because of your start point with delusion, you end up experiencing all these negativities. A result of the craving and the seeking, is a mind that is scattered, patchy. I put as many words as I can describe. They're not the same, huh? Scattered, patchy, distracted, drifting, being caught up in whatever objects that catches your fancy. Now, look at your own mind. In regular day, in an ordinary day, not at retreat. I know many of you go for retreats. So when you're not at a retreat, you're back in your daily life. Can you describe your mind? Would you describe your mind as all over the place? That whatever is happening, you are just trailing after what catches your attention. Then when you have nothing that catches your attention, you get bored. You're looking for something to catch your attention so that you can get engaged and interested again. So when you have when you have craving and attachment as a baseline, as an instinct, automatically your mind will drift all over the place. Okay? Look at the time when you are really interested. You just think back of the time when you're really interested in something. I'm going to talk about meditation. We're just saying, let's say you're reading a book and you're very engrossed in the book. The book, you enjoy the book. You enjoy the story that's being told, or the ideas that are being shared in the books. When you are enjoying yourself, it is easy for your attention to stay in place. You're watching a show, the show is very engaging, you really thoroughly enjoy the visual effects and the story and so on. It's so easy to stay with the show. But the moment that show or that book or whatever activity is not engaging you, it's not interesting, not stimulating, the odds are your mind will drift. So for a regular person in a regular life, the mind is perpetually drifting. Either because there are many responsibilities he has to tackle, so there is one thing there, I want to solve my problem, I want to handle things, I need to get these things done, I need to get 10 things done, your mind will drift in 10 directions times 2. To drift, don't drift. To drift, don't drift. So now you can understand why in the 𝗦𝗫𝗏 Sutta, the Buddha talked about a practitioner needs to have less responsibilities, an easier livelihood. Because the more things that you take upon yourself, because you feel you have to, then you will end up being distracted. Massively. Okay? Massively. All this drifting and being caught up will lead to a constant state of becoming. Again and again you come. Every moment where you can almost imagine your feelings change according to the different objects that present itself. Your perception change, your thoughts are changing. All these changes are another moment of you, another becoming, another being born again. So I call it coming again and again. There is this beautiful stanza in Dhammapada Verse 153 that says, 𝗏𝗛𝗦𝗔𝗬𝗓 punang. Suffering is to be born again and again. We are not talking about different lives. Some of you don't even believe in different lives. We're talking about this life. In this life alone, how many times today have you been reborn already? And how many times of those rebirths had not been ideal? See, humans set standards very high. When it is not ideal, it is dukkha. Only when it's ideal, then for that brief moment you say, good enough, sweet. When you say good enough, dukkha evaporates slightly, but it will be back. Until we are fully enlightened, it will be back. It's like Terminator. Okay, so this is samsara. Samsara means the everyday, your daily life. Born again and again, die again and again. Your entire day is full of births and deaths, again and again. And in between, when you're distracted and you're not focused, this is what the Buddha said, you're like dead, because you're not even aware of the world that you are experiencing going past you. Okay? If you want to live in accordance with the Dhamma, it is called Dhammacakka, living in accordance with the Dhamma will as opposed to the samsaric will. The Dhamma will starts with 3 key elements. However you look at the path, there are always 3 elements. Wisdom, morality, restraint, samadhi, a mind that is present. You look at how that one goes. Moha delusion is the opposite of panya. Untamed and no restraint is the opposite of sila. And therefore the mind gets caught up and all over the place, drifting, distracted, and so on and so forth. Literally, that mind is helpless. You are helpless to the sense impressions that come in from outside, and then you just react, willy-nilly react to all these sense pleasures. And you feel, very often you feel that you can't control your emotions, right? When akusala arises, when unwholesome thoughts and unwholesome painful feelings arise, you feel helpless. Why do you feel helpless? Why do you feel helpless? Because you don't want to be angry, right? You don't want to be craving. You don't want to be worried. Who wants to be worried? Who wants to be frightened? But yet that happens. That happens all the time. So you live in a samsara world, you will feel that you have no control over your mind. You have no control over reactions. You feel as if you're being drawn in different directions. But if you live according to the Dhamma will, the Dhammacakka, according to this formula, you will feel secure and stable, anchored on faith, anchored on joy, anchored on wholesomeness. So this is the value of understanding Dhammacakka properly and implementing the steps properly. Okay? So the first thing about always in everything that you do, you just have to see for yourself, in everything that you do, it starts with a perspective. It starts with a view and understanding. or misunderstanding. But it always starts with how you understand, how you view, how you perceive things. So therefore, in this Dhamma wheel, it starts with Samma Ditti. Samma has been translated as right, so right understanding. But you remember Samma Sambuddha? Samma Sambuddha is perfect, the perfectly enlightened one. So Samma actually has that meaning. Basically, be as great, as right, as perfect as you can be. So the more you understand the Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Paths, the three characters, I will go into it briefly. The more you understand these and allow these information and knowledge to sink into your consciousness. It cannot be just ideas. It's not good enough. It has to sink into your consciousness so deep that it becomes your automatic baseline. The moment you see the world, automatically Four Noble Truths. If you see the world, and you see events, and you have experiences, but what comes out is, sukha is good, happiness and pleasure is good, you are not on the Four Noble Truths. You are still riding on the wrong bus. It's the samsara bus. The Dhamma bus is very clear. You look at anything and automatically your perception is like this. It is not, I repeat, it is not that pleasure is wrong. It is not that. Buddha made it very clear. It is, if I chase after pleasure, chasing after pleasure, that chase is painful. That's what you have to remember. Any chase, any wanting, any seeking, that in itself is where the dukkha lies. Point one. Point two, the nature of life presents the dukkha. When you have attachment, it will present the dukkha. Look, for those who believe in many lives, how many times have you died already? How many times have we died? In any relationship that we go into, for anyone that we care and love, for any event that you partake in, they will be there and fade away. Grow old, grow sick, die. It's natural. It's just the way things are. Yet, whenever we meet people or fall in love or get married or have engagements, we never think of the obvious truth, which is this connection is impermanent. We never think of that. We always think about all the pleasures that can come up with any relationship. There is no right or wrong. It is just that when you perceive it in a deluded way, in a way that disregard the obvious, which is death and dying, when we engage with disregard for the not so pleasant, the painful half, if we engage disregarding the painful half, then we are deluded, aren't we? Because you only have one half of an apple, which has two halves. The part you like, you keep. The part you don't like, you throw away. You ignore, you disregard. That is delusion, isn't it? So what this means is, clean your lens, don't be deluded. Know that in any relationship, there are two halves. It's okay. We can still make friends and enjoy and have a good time, knowing that it will end. Then you say like that, how to have a good time? Precisely. That is why he said, the noble truth of dukkha, the very nature of life is dukkha. Because it's just like that. There is no forever party. There isn't. And if you say, I don't accept that, like that, moha. Okay? And the characteristics, the three characteristics, basically is the impermanence of life, impermanence of the moment, impermanence of nature around you. Everything that you perceive, that you experience, is you experience. So actually, this three characteristics is three characteristics of the aggregates: your form, your feelings, how you see things, how you construct to engage the thing, and your experiences, vijnana, sensory experiences. All these, this is your world, and this world is impermanent. It carries intrinsic in there pain, because it will die. You will die, your friend will die, your love will die, and so on. And they are all conditionally a reason. No one is in charge. Nothing permanent is holding everything together. Experiences are experiences, okay? Karma, your mind must be very clear, and this is very important to sink into the mind. That is, that all mental construct, all conscious decisions, all deliberate decisions, all of them leave a stain in the mind. Think about the way you look at the world. How do you know it's a tree? How do you know it's a car? How do you know this person is nice or not? It's because in the past you have learned. You have remembered, and you have concluded, yes, this is the correct way of saying things. This is the right way of perceiving things. And then this memory, it's a collected memory, will be retrieved by you time and again to understand the world around you. It's just like that. Some stains are heavy stains. Some stains are light stains. You don't remember how you brush your teeth. It's a light stain. But you still choose to use this particular brand of toothpaste. But it's a light stain. The heavy ones, the heavy stain, are the ones where you will remember. In the quiet of the night, you will remember, you will recollect often with pain. We don't usually remember our triumph. It takes a very unique person to sit back and say, my life has been really great because today I scored this, and I did that. It's very rare. Chances are, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. You know, I wasn't very nice. He said me. I don't know why he didn't like me. He said me. It's like that. It's the negative that people remember, not the positive. So the Buddha's teaching tells you balance. Have a bit of a balance. Recall the positive, not triumph. Recall the positive to help you bring up wholesomeness. So you recall the positive with gratitude. Someone did you a favor. What a wonderful person. With gratitude. I have a life here in a country where I have safety and security, where I have a way to earn a living. I have hope for my children, for myself. That kind of thing, I'm very grateful. So you recall to help you be a better person, to become more wholesome. But the regular person doesn't do it like that. The regular person recalls anything that gives him pain. And if he recalls anything that gives him pleasure, it's so that he can go and repeat the experience. You see how lopsided our mind is? Now, knowing karma, knowing these characteristics, knowing this sinking into your mind as part of your mental baseline, when that happens, you have wisdom. You have growing wisdom. And you must, because this is happening in your mind, remember, you are no longer fixated about pleasure. You are very clear in your mind. People live, people die, things are all impermanent, etc., etc. Because that is your baseline, you learn not to hold so tight. Sankappa, sama sankappa means how your mind come together, construct. How the mind understands, and then how the mind reacts. How the mind understands and what the mind must do. That's the idea, okay? This is your baseline when you perceive that dukkha is very much a nature of life. It's just the other half of sukha. For every sukha, there are much dukkha. When your mind starts to think like that, and you recognize that it's actually because of your searching, your craving, your hankering that leads to dukkha, when your mind thinks like that, you will begin, you only begin not to hold so tightly. This is what it means. Renunciation, nekkhamma, renunciation. It means not holding too tightly. You learn to accept, you learn to let go. Accepting that things come and go, anger will come and go, agitation come and go, worries come and go, and so on and so forth. You accept that things come and go, and you do not just cling to them, refusing to let go. And I'm very specific. Very often, this letting go for the regular person, this letting go is letting go of your akusala, your unwholesomeness. Okay? This letting go is not letting go of wholesome. Eventually that happens, but for most people, especially when they are just very new to the practice, they are living a regular life, letting go is very often letting go of unwholesome. What do I mean? You get angry, you try to let go. Don't think. But he said me, I'm very upset about that. Let go of the anger, let go of the anger. No, he said that about me. So, your unwholesome grips you. Your thought of the unwholesome grips you. Try letting go of the food that you have in mind. Or the pleasure. You have a trip coming up. You are so low bar, so greedy about that trip. You're so happy thinking about the trip. Now because of COVID-19, sorry, no trip. The angst in you, the hurt, the pain, the sadness that you can't go, that one you have to let go. If you don't let go of that, you're never going to be happy again, recovered again, right? So, letting go of the greed, the wanting, the craving, letting go of, number 2, anger. If you can't let go of one thing, anger will come up, ill will come up. So if you can let go of this one, the one thing, automatically there will be no ill will. I call it a sliding towards, it's a deterioration. So if you don't let go of your one thing, you will have ill will. But if you can let go of one thing, and you can let go, then the ill will doesn't come about, right? You will have no ill will, then there will be no cruelty. It is just like that. So if you can't let go of your one thing, anger will come up. That's when the Buddha says, round 2, no ill will. So you hold your line, no ill will, no ill will. I can be upset that I didn't get it, but I don't have to get angry, in other words. But let's say you got angry. Then you better make sure it doesn't go into round 3, which is, I will take my revenge. Who is cruel when they're in a good state of mind? You're cruel only when you have ill will. And the angrier you are, the higher the possibility you will be cruel. That's just the way it is. So think of it, therefore, as a slight, a deterioration. You couldn't let go. You must hold the line on no ill will. You couldn't hold the line because you got angrier and angrier. You better not get to a point where you will retaliate. You become cruel, okay? And how do you express these mental energies in the mind? How do you express it? You express them in words and action. In words and action. Traditionally, we will say, right speech is about no lies, no slanders, no harsh speech, no frivolous talk, traditionally. I will also, in different suttas, they will talk about this, but they also talk about this, which is you don't engage in lies or slanders or words that hurt, upset people, but did you speak truth? Are you gentle in your speech? In the things that come out of your mouth, are they helpful or not? And timely. sometimes a piece of advice is very helpful and is really, we all know it's good for welfare, but the mind, the recipient's mind is shut. It's not ready to hear. Then why do you say it? If you say it, it's actually about you, not about the guy. It's you who wants to make your point to that fella. Whether or not he's ready to listen, it's not my problem. I will just fling it at you. It's like trying to get a man who is full to eat more. He's not going to eat. And then it's all wasted effort, okay? What you think comes out. These are the expressions, either through words or through action. All these, it's about restraint, okay? It's about restraint. Now, ajiva, livelihood, in how we live our life, earning a living to sustain ourselves, we have to make sure that they do not hurt anybody. That's the idea. Do not cause pain, grief, and dukkha to another. I have a very simple, how should I call it? It's just a way of something that guides me. Whatever that I say, and the actions that I do, how I earn my living, how I conduct myself, I will do it in accordance with what I would like others to do to me. I'm not being original. Many people have said this. Many wise people have said this. Be empathetic. Do unto others what you want others to do unto you. You want to be treated with respect and consideration, with kindliness and gently and so on, then you must replicate all those things in your speech and in your action, in your conduct, okay? Treat others the way you want to be treated. I'll go very quickly into this portion. Sama Vayama means right effort, perfect effort. And here is very specific. Any unwholesome effort, you must prevent them from arising in your mind. Any unwholesome thoughts, any unwholesome motivations, you must prevent these unwholesomeness from arising in your mind. If unwholesome thoughts or motivations are already present, you must drop them. Abandon. So, I don't have pad here. Wait, my good friend, Dr. came up with this. She's really good at acronyms, so I'm just going to steal her acronym. Prevent any unwholesome mental states, motivations from arising. Abandon any unwholesome thoughts or mental states which are present, meaning you didn't do a good job, the anger is up. You know that there is anger, you should try and drop it. Abandon, let it go. If there is no wholesome mental state present, you must generate them. And if the wholesome mental states and mental motivations, the wholesomeness is there, you want to sustain, keep. For her, this is keep. Keeping means proliferating, making sure that they are part of your mental baseline. Now, they are not sequential, they are actually ending on K. Proliferation, meaning to say that if you are a practitioner or you fancy yourself as going into being a practitioner, you must remember that your job is not about eradicating unwholesome. Eradicating, if you are fixated about this half, if you are fixated about doing this half, your practice leaves a lot to be desired. Let's just say you're very far from the practice. You must reach a point where this is your natural habit. In other words, a natural state of mind for you is the kindness, the patience, the goodness, the joy, the tranquility, the peace, the faith, the wholesomeness. That should be your natural state of mind, this part, okay? So remember, right effort always ends with protecting the wholesome mind, protecting it. And you see how the Buddha said, you must guard that sense door and you must make effort. Meaning, when you hear, when you see, when you perceive, you are very aware. There's a mindfulness there. You are aware that, oh, this is going to happen. Before the anger arises, you should already be careful to keep them from arising. Before your greed gets to overwhelm you, you must be careful to block it right at the door. The moment you entertain all these unwholesome thoughts, they are going to come in and make themselves unfriendly, unwanted squatters in your mind. That's the problem. So, recognize them right before they make a big impact in your mind. Don't let them come in other words. Act like a security guard. So the security guard's job, a security guard's job is not to let all these unwanted guests into the house and say, okay, you make yourself at home, I go and check the name list and see whether you all can come in or not. It cannot be like that, right? Your job must be, you wait, I check first. I don't like your face, I don't see your name, you're not coming in. So your vigilance should be at that level, keeping them out, the unwholesomeness out. Okay, the last two, Samasati, Samasamadhi, the mind that is more peaceful and quiet and present. Sati means mindfulness, which means the mind is there. When there is mindfulness, you will remember better. That's just the way you pay attention, you make an effort to register what's going on, you will remember. That is why they always say sati is about remembering. But it's more than that. You are not remembering everything. There's no point. You only have so much RAM space, database. You are remembering critically your mind and form, your aggregates. Remember the 5 aggregates that I mentioned earlier? Form, feeling, perception, thought formation, consciousness. You are remembering these 5 aggregates as changing, impermanent, always changing. When you register that these 5 aggregates are always changing, you will then begin to realize that your fixation with pleasure, your fixation on searching for pleasure, is a pain. You will begin to realize that. And in the process of keep observing these 5 aggregates and the changing nature and the not delusional pleasure nature, when you start to register that, you may also start to realize that they are all conditionally a reason. There is no self in it. That's what Buddha's method is training our mind to achieve. A way of seeing reality as is. We will show you the words afterwards. Yatha Buddha Jnanada, I will show you the words afterwards. Basically, Buddha's Dhamma, Buddha's teaching is helping us to try and crack all those lenses that traps us in a delusional way of seeing things. We should crack the lenses so that we recognize the nature of the mind and the body, therefore experiences, for what they are. Impermanent, not pleasure, not painful, but definitely not pleasurable all the time. And conditionally a reason. They come and they go, they come and they go, they come and go, they come and go. Okay? Now, mindfulness and memory is so that you will remember the change. Finally, Samma Samadhi. To cut a really long story short, I will explain it like this. We always say that Samma Samadhi is about the jhana, and then people will freak out. Jhana, so hard to achieve, and so on and so forth. Let me explain it like this. If your mind, if you can do all these, you are a good person, you're very careful about being wholesome, your mind is pure. If you are very careful about preserving the purity of the mind, the wholesomeness of the mind, and your efforts are all tip-top, guard the sense door, don't let all this unfriendly squatters in and so on, you are able to do that, automatically the mind is light and happy, joyous. And there will be minimal chatters. The mind stops drifting all over the place. If you protect your wholesomeness, automatically the mind gets more focused, less all over the place, less distracted, more present. When the mind is more present, you have minimal chatters. When you have minimal chatters and you are very wholesome, the mind is joyous. It's automatic. You don't have to work hard at being joyous. Joy arises when you work hard at being wholesome. Okay? And if you stay wholesome, you'll be joyous. It's automatic, conditional arising. And in that joy is that tranquility. Again, it's all natural. When the mind gets into a state of acceptance, it's accepting, it's not chasing, it's being present, it will be equanimous. Equanimous means not being tricked, not being seduced by pleasure, but neither are you affected or distressed by pain. You are equanimous towards both pleasure and pain. It doesn't matter, because they all, pleasure or pain, will arise and fade away. You know that. You are so familiar with that. And therefore, you are equanimous. When you are equanimous, you will be objective. You are then able to see the mind as it really is. This 𝗏𝗛𝗦𝗏𝗛𝗏. When you are very equanimous and you're very peaceful and you're accepting, you are no longer looking at the mind through your previous lens. Your previous lens, this lens, intrinsic in this lens is craving. Intrinsic in this lens, it's a craving and an attachment. It is not just here, it's actually here also. Why do I say that? When you are attached, then you will be looking for meaning beyond what is obvious to you. What is obvious to us are the changing nature of per second, per nanosecond experience. That's the obvious part. But because of attachment and because of delusions, you want this nanosecond conditional changes to have a meaning. To have a meaning. And you gave it the meaning by calling it me. All these changing nature sums up to me, I being special. All these changes sums up to I. You can't see that it's mind-made. It is mind-made. But nonetheless, because we are so attached and we can't see beyond the attachment, we don't want it to be mind-made. We want it to be real. And because we want it to be real, and we believe it to be real, then in our mind, it is as real as you imagine it to be. Okay? That's it. Your Eightfold Path, which is actually the Noble Eightfold Path, comprise wisdom, i.e. correct seeing, correct understanding. Because you have that understanding, you act with restraint over the akusala, the unwholesome habits. As you act with restraint, the mind becomes calmer, quieter, more peaceful, more present. When the mind is present and detached with this understanding and this practice, the mind then begins, literally light dawning on the mind. It begin to be able to relate all that is happening around you to the teaching. In daily life, if you want to be a practitioner, you just have to do this. You just have to keep repeating in your mind the basics. 4 Noble Truths, Eightfold Paths, Karma. I can throw in conditionality, but the whole thing is conditionality. We will just put the conditionality apart first. Just do 4 Noble Truths and the characteristics. You keep reflecting in your daily life. And you must always check the unwholesome instincts. See how they search. See how you check. See that over time, over a period of practice, the unwholesomeness don't search anymore. They may occasionally poke you, but they are no longer the tsunami of the past. Occasionally it's a little little draft that will blow at you, feeling a bit agitated, but it will not come on strong and intense. And then over time, if your practice always with understanding, if we restrain, and a meditation to keep affirming this practice, this knowledge, over time you will get more and more consolidated on the path. What does it mean? It means your mind is changing. Your understanding, the way you react, your mind is changing. And as it changes, you will feel more and more the sense of cessation of dukkha. You will feel more and more the bliss. Your reward for walking this path is in this very life, on a daily basis, you feel, ironically, life is beautiful. That it is actually worth living because it's beautiful. As opposed to the life that once upon a time passed you by as you got caught up with all kinds of things. And all your effort in the samsara, all your effort goes to waste. Because you try so hard to be happy, but instead you became upset. Whereas if you do it this way, for sure you will become more at peace. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Sylvia. For those who like to ask questions, please put them down on the comment box. We have a first question here. Thank you for the clear explanations. Having to go through rebirth is painful. I was asked what is so bad about coming back. How can I explain this to a non-Buddhist?
You know what? Okay, before I answer your question directly, I will have this to say about why it's so bad coming back. It's not bad or good. You come back, you must come back with your eyes open, knowing that you're going to deal with the joy of being in the presence of people you love, but the pain of losing them, whether it's yourself dying or they dying. Then you say, yeah, but it's the end. You only love one person, meh? There's so many people you love. even casual friends, people whose path, you just cross their path. Even those strangers that you have met, and you had an exchange of word, and you kind of like them, and the next minute you know they are dead. How do you feel? The pain of losing will always be there when there is joy of having. It's just like that. What you delight in comes with a price tag. If you're prepared to accept that price tag, then that's it. For you, that's it. But if you feel that that price tag is actually not worth it, then you change. You have a change of you will want to embark on the noble path. Let me explain this again. For every joy that you have in company of people, for every person you love, for every joy that you have, for every person that you love, you must be prepared to take the other half, which is the pain of losing them. Because there is no such thing as never losing them. So you think, life after life after life, you are back to experience the death, the loss of people. And before the death comes, there is the old, the sick, the dying. And for everyone that you know, there will be that experience. So this in itself, you must see it in totality. We are very good at selective amnesia. We choose to pay attention to the things that give us pleasure and to disregard or to ignore or to be the ostrich, the proverbial ostrich with the head in the sand. We choose to do it like this. So when you don't see the big picture and you're focused only on maximizing pleasure, it's easy to be intoxicated with life. But if you see the picture in its totality, then a different story will emerge. So the question is, do you want to be focused only on pleasure and ignore what will amount to a substantial other half? If you say, okay, I just want the pleasure, I'm just going to ignore the rest, so be it. This is your choice. And then your life will then kind of meander all over what I call the delusional half, the Disneyland half, disregarding the fact that that Disneyland will close. It has opening hours and closing hours. Disneyland will close. Then what do? Spend the rest of the time waiting for them to open again? Which possibly, that's what people are happy with. Okay? Now, to answer your question, how do you tell people? Why are we telling people? In the first place, I don't see a reason to persuade people to see things my way. When they have enough pain and agitation, they will come to you asking for the way out. So this is what I meant when I said, in right speech, there is the timely moment. Timely is when the person is ready to hear, willing to hear. Then what you say, it's going to make that difference. Otherwise, no point. I don't have to convince you that life is painful. You will know that when the time comes. Because there will be all these people you will lose along the way at different times of your life. Okay?
Thank you, Sis Sylvia. Someone said, thank you for the insightful Dhamma talk. I have a question on right understanding and right mindfulness. The explanation of the two sounded very similar. Could you please elaborate on the difference of the two? Is there such a thing as wrong mindfulness? How do we recognize that we have wrong mindfulness? Thank you for answering my question.
Oh, that's an excellent question. Okay. They sound similar, but they are definitely very different, okay? Understanding is what you know things to be, and from that perspective of I know it to be like this, I will react, I will respond. Right understanding is, if I change the English words, it can be right perspective, right view, right way of looking at life. Okay. Does it help? The right way of looking at life. It is a lens, a view. And this lens and this view colors the way you see the world. When you see someone behaving in a certain way, or when you see something, that passes through a process here in the brain, a filter. And that filter will very quickly decide, oh, it's this, oh, it's that. It is this or that or that. The filter goes through its database, rummage through, grab the relevant material and say, voila, it's this. Then you always say, so it is kindness. So this, the part where you recognize things, you understand things, that part is understanding. And you know that can be right or wrong, okay? And we are very specific. In the Dhamma, it is understanding of three characteristics, and the conditional relationship between craving and pain, dukkha, craving and dukkha. For Dhamma purposes, these are the critical elements of concepts and ideas that needs to form a part of your perspective about the world. Sati, mindfulness, need not have a word. Sati is just present. One is present. The mind is here. The mind is not caught up in an object and running away. The mind, you are aware, you are paying attention. And your attention, you are even aware the attention is right here. Now, the content of that attention will determine right or wrong. If you pay attention to the right thing, if you are aware of what is conducive for a deeper understanding of the Dhamma, what is conducive for a deeper understanding of Dhamma, that is right mindfulness. If you're paying attention in such a way that takes you away from the Dhamma, then you are having miccha, wrong mindfulness. For instance, suppose, let's say, you're in a quarrel with a friend, and you're aware that your anger is coming up. You're aware that it's coming up. What is right mindfulness is you will say, this anger is unwholesome, it's going to damage my practice, I'm going to leave it aside. Wholesome, unwholesome, I'm going to lean on the side of wholesomeness. I'm aware that there is this thought process going on, and there is this choosing, this careful choosing to be wholesome. Because my friend is going to regret, and I'm going to regret if I exchange words. You're paying attention to wholesome. Then you have right mindfulness. If you pay attention to the words he's saying and paying attention to the ego, the anger that says, I want to retaliate. You call me name, I will give you 3 more. If you're paying attention to the unwholesome, then you have wrong mindfulness. You look at your own mind. How often we tend to pay attention to the unwholesome as opposed to the wholesome? Look at your mind. If your mind pays more attention to the wholesome, you are on the Dhamma track. If your mind pays attention to the unwholesome, you are sliding towards the samsara track. Okay? Does that help? Yeah.
Thank you, Sis Sylvia. Another question. What is the most effective method to prevent ill will from arising?
The method depends on the individual. Some people, they are very strong in their understanding and practice. And if they're very strong on, say, knowledge of the suttas or their understanding and practice, then straight away their mind will drift towards the relevant stanzas in the sutta that will help them to calm down. Some people are very good because by nature they are more forgiving, they are more understanding, they have greater empathy and so on. Therefore, these people, their natural instinct is to then go towards saying the right thing to themselves. He's going to suffer like me, he's going to have pain like me, I don't want to retaliate. And it's easy for them to do it because by nature they are softer and gentler and less confrontational. Some people who are rather pragmatic, very pragmatic people, they may say, you know, retaliating is going to, if I were to retaliate, it is going to give me a lot of problem. I don't want to burn my bridges. You know, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. So if you're very pragmatic, if you have the nature to be very pragmatic, you say pragmatic things to yourself. Don't burn bridges, bad karma, you know, it's going to stain my mind, it's going to cause me to have a lot of cortisol and adrenaline, and I'm going to be very upset for the rest of the day. It's not worth it. Or it could be, I'm going to end up in hell. If I'm going to do the fighting and I'm going to end up in hell as an animal, it's just not worth it. It depends on you. You pick. First, you must know yourself very well. Know what works for you. If it works once and it works twice, this is a good method for you. You continue with this method and you perfect it. I know someone who says that every time she wants to pick a fight, she says to herself, I'm going to be dead. When I don't know. This one is going to be dead. When I don't know. You know what? Forget it. So for her, this works. Mortality jam break works for this person. Okay? There are many methods. Focusing either, all methods will require you to talk to yourself, to talk wisely. So you start off with having the correct understanding why you're holding on to wholesomeness. You're holding on to wholesomeness so that your mind can become more peaceful, which will then enable you to see the Dhamma better, see the Four Noble Truths better. With that as your start point, then you go and tackle the occasional arisings of akusala. And you tackle it by recalling what works for you. You tackle that by recalling what works for you. So if you're pragmatic, you talk in a pragmatic way. If you're gentle and nice and wholesome and patient by nature and still you get affected, then continue to talk in, let's be empathetic, let's be gentle, let's be patient, I've been very good at this, let's continue here, that sort of thing. Or maybe you are really good at just cutting your thoughts. Because I know of people who, you know what, I'm not thinking about it. And the fellow doesn't think and it's over. For him, that works. Cut, drop, gone. If that works for you, do it like that. Some people are meditators. The moment they watch the breathing, the anger drops. So if that works for you, then that's the method for you. Okay? I've given you quite a few methods already.
Thank you, Sis Sylvia. Maybe we will have two last questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
Someone asked, how do we differentiate chasing the things you desire and chasing the wholesome mind and wisdom?
Okay, excellent question. Today's questions are really good. Huh? Chasing the things you desire is a natural chase. It's natural. Everyone does that. And Buddha recognizes that because he had an entire sutta called the Ariyapariyesanā Sutta. Majjhima Nikaya, okay, they are checking the number. And this Ariyapariyesanā Sutta talks about the noble search. And in a noble search, the end of that search is perfect understanding, vijja, with knowledge of the nature of mind and the nature of the world. A perfectly calm and peaceful mind, pure mind, fully wholesome in every sense of the word. And the natural, the mind that is naturally in a state of peace and contentment and bliss. If you like, the Brahma Vihara is in full bloom for such an individual. So a noble search is one that ends with a mind at peace. The rest of the searchers will end up with the mind being more agitated than normal. And the rest of the searchers usually end up, first the search are meaningless, because here you are going after your delights in the hope that it brings you pleasure, without realizing that this search in itself comes with the price tag of displeasure, pain, dissatisfaction. So one search, when it's completed, just yield the sense of absolute peace. When the other search, at the end of it, is a meaningless, wasted effort, in other words. So for the regular lay person, you need to strike a balance. You never waste a life as a human just mindlessly going for material and conventional pleasure, because it's really a wasted life. At the end of this life, what do you have to show for? More children, more houses, more money, none of which you can bring along. And all the sum of all your pleasure will end. When this life is over, what can you bring along? Nothing. You bring along only the stains, or the merits, the wholesome purity of that mind. Then you give yourself a new start, much happier, much lighter, much further traveled on this well-trodden path. Okay?
Yes, thank you, Sis. This last question we will take is, thank you for sharing your perspective of the Four Noble Truths. My question is, how will realizing non-self contribute to the Four Noble Truths?
You see, we identify all experiences from the perspective that there is something special and tangible in the experience. From that perspective, where there is something that emits everything else that you experience. And then you want to appreciate, you will say that this is meaningful if I have much pleasure, a lot of pleasure. You will maximize pleasure. And because you want to maximize pleasure, you end up creating more dukkha, right? We have established that, okay? When you begin to not identify a feeling as a self, a perception as a self, a thought as a self, experiences as a self. When you say, no, it's just happening, you create a certain detachment between the experience and what you artificially create as a self. So you just create, you just have all the experiences. When that happens, you actually reduce the craving. You reduce, because if feeling comes and feeling goes, feelings are just feeling. When perception comes and perception goes, you don't make perception into judgment. It is just see and drop, see and drop. But the moment you say there is a self in all these things, you make effort to remember how all these experiences affirm the self. You compound the desires, compound the experience, make it more real than it's already there. And when that happens, the mind will cling on to every experience, cling on to every feeling, cling on to every view, cling on to every thought arising. The result of which is your luggage way surpass the 30 kilo you have. You're going to go through life dragging a whole wagon or a caravan full of ideas and thoughts and memories, all of which you treasure because the self cannot lose them. So imagine, right? You create something, the idea is created of a self, then the self has to be justified to survive. And everything that is experiencing has to be given to something for that to survive. It's basically compounding. To cut a long story short, to create the self is to compound the desire. And we know about compound interest. It gets exponentially heavier and more intense. Okay?
Thank you so much, Sister Sylvia. Thank you so much, Sister Sylvia. Now we will end this service with having Sis Sylvia do the English version.
We are going to share merits with all sentient beings. Let's see. Okay. Dedication of merits. We are going to put our hands together, close your eyes. In your heart, if you had rejoiced in the Dhamma Talk, you rejoice in learning the Dhamma, tell yourself, say to yourself, I hope to share all the merits that I have acquired from the joy in listening to Dhamma this morning. I want to share these merits with all beings. So chant after me. Let us invite all sentient beings to participate in our acquired merits. Whatever merits which we have thus acquired, may all devas, beings, and humans partake of it. May it contribute greatly to their happiness. Dedication of merits to our departed beings. Let us dedicate the merits of participating in a wholesome Dhamma activity to our departed relatives and friends. Let this merit accrue to our departed relatives, and may they be well and happy. Let this merit accrue to our departed relatives, and may they be well and happy. Let this merit accrue to our departed relatives, and may they be well and happy. Let us pay respects to the Triple Gem, the Lord, the perfectly enlightened and blessed One. I render homage to the Buddha. The teaching, so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma. The Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, I bow to the Sangha. End of service dedication. I dedicate the merits which I have accumulated to the cultivation of my mind in order to bring happiness and benefits to all sentient beings. I dedicate the merits to my parents, children, spouse, relatives, friends, colleagues, and my adversaries, wishing them long life, good health, happiness, and prosperity. May we never part from the triple gem, and may we always walk the path towards enlightenment. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Sister Sylvia Bay. So next week we have another Sunday service at 11 o'clock. Before that, on Saturday, we will have Dr. 𝗜𝗡𝗦𝗡𝗏 continuing on the Anapanasati Sutta from 3 to 5 p.m. See you all. Thank you for joining us.